Very good evening to all viewers. I am C. Pal Singh, former Inspector General Police Punjab and ex-Chief Rapid Action Force Government of India. Today evening I am with you as President of NISSMAT. NISSMAT started as a training institution, but with the passage of time, it has become a think tank organization, and it conducts discussions, debates, deliberations with scholars and reputed social and political personalities through webinars, interactive sessions, podcasts, and these are propagated by NISSMAT to a large audience. Today we have with us two speakers. One is the moderator, the other is the speakers. I'll first of all introduce the speaker, Shri Karan Datta. Shri Karan Datta is a reputed and recognized financial services advisor who has contributed in a big way to the growth of some well-known global and domestic organizations like Franklin Templeton and Access Mutual Funds. In addition to his financial acumen, he has a deep interest in geopolitical matters and the economic implications of geopolitical matters. He continues to make significant contribution to both the financial and geopolitical realms. The other gentleman on the dais with us is Maj Gen Deepak Mehta, retired, who will moderate this session. Maj Gen Deepak Mehta is a third-generation officer in the army. He is a postgraduate in defense studies from Madras University. He has seen active operations in J&K, both in counter-insurgency operations and along the line of control. General Mehta commanded an infantry brigade during Ops Prakarma and a mountain div subsequently. He is the first officer who raised the information warfare cell in the army as a pilot project and has instructional appointments in the premier training institutes and establishment of the Army War College and the Military Academy. He'll moderate this session. Before I request our eminent speakers to elaborate on the subject of today's discussion, that is India-China relationship, let me give a brief about the subject. India and China, the two major complex nations, have a share of complex relationship somehow or the other. These complex relationships are shared by the ancient history, geography, and also strategic interests. Despite deep-rooted cultural ties, tension persists between the two countries due to unresolved border disputes. The line of actual control remains the most contentious issue, and the 1962 war, as we vividly remember still, and the Galwan Valley clash of 2020 continue to cast a very long shadow on the relationship between the two countries. Economic relationships have also been mostly uneven. India faces a large trade deficit with China. Further, Beijing's road initiatives, particularly these projects in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, have heightened India's security concerns. Then prolonged mistrust between the two countries have hampered regional stability and to some extent, or rather to a great extent, the diverse resources for our military, to diverse resources for our military operations, or military preparedness, I would call it. Above limits, however, restricts opportunities for giant global partnership, and there is a strategic rivalry some or the other prevailing between the two countries. For India, balancing economic engagements with national security of the country remains a central challenge in India-China relationship. The ongoing tariff war, I'll come to recent war, the tariff war initiated by United States against China has opened new possibilities for India-China trade cooperation. It has indeed opened new possibilities. Let's see how far we go. As the US restricts Chinese exports through high tariffs, Beijing is compelled probably to look for alternatives, markets, and reliable parties. So is India. On the other hand, Indian exporters also, particularly in the pharmaceutical sector, in the IT services, in agriculture production, and textiles, they can gain a much deeper access to the Chinese market as China seeks to diversify its import. However, the challenges remain. Long-standing political and security frictions, as well as concerns about trade imbalance, could limit the extent of cooperation. It is up to Shri Karan Datta to explain at length as to what could be the ramification or what are the prevailing conflicts between India and China. I will now request Gen Deepak Mehta to please take over the session and proceed further as a moderator of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Karan, before we start, I think it will be prudent to look into the historical aspects of India-China relations. What I see of it is that it's a very complex sort of a relationship that we have. If you go historically, we had the Silk Route, which was running to China. We also had this opium trade, which was going on during the British rule.
That's correct.
So that was economics and trade going on together. I think the turnaround took place around of course, we recognized China in 1950, and we had a very good relationship with them. It was Hindi, Chini, Bhai Bhai. And if you see the Chinese embassy in Delhi, it's one of the largest area it was holding.
Yes, sir.
But the changes took place, turnaround took place in 1962 when the Chinese attacked. And I'll leave it at that. Now I'll request you to give us any other more input that you have, the historical aspect of it.
First of all, I'm deeply honored to be part of the second talk at NISSMAT. Really grateful that NISSMAT has requested me to come on and speak and to be able to speak to such senior members of the armed forces and the ex-IG police. I'm truly honored, sir. Thank you for calling me. It's actually, Sir Sipal Singh sir did explain it very beautifully when he spoke about the relationship, and it's one of those relationships where you are a friend and a foe at the very same time, and that pretty much those two words simultaneously explain our this entire equation with China. But coming back to just going back in history and talking about that and where all of this is coming from. So you spoke about the opium trade, etc. And actually, from books that I've read in the past, whether it was history or whatever, some bits of research I've done, the Chinese have never forgiven Indians, especially for the opium trade that has happened on them through the British.
Yeah, that's right. Through the British, yes.
So while the British were the ones who propagated the trade of opium, it was the Indians who were policing it.
That's right.
And until date, I don't think they've forgiven us for it, because as per Chinese history, one complete, maybe two generations were lost because of this. So there is a little bit of that friction that still exists. But I just wanted to also point out that it seems as if we've had a wonderful, great relationship over, let's say, centuries. But the fact of the matter is that China was not even India's neighbor up until 1951, because our neighbor has always been Tibet.
Yes.
And when the Chinese tanks rolled in to Tibet in 1951, that's when the Chinese became our neighbors.
That's right.
And from 1951 onwards, we've already had, well, if you include Galwan, if you include 62, and then you include one retaliatory attack by India, we've already fought 3, maybe even 4 wars with them. So in less than 6 decades, we've had 4 confrontations with them. I think the point I'm trying to make is that as long as we had our borders with Tibetans, for centuries, there is no recorded history of conflict between Indian kingdoms and Tibetans.
Yes.
But that changed as soon as 51 came and 52 came. So I do think that it seems sometimes as if there's a bit of a, we kind of get fixated on the fact that we had a great relationship with China, which actually I don't think that's been very, very true, because we never had access. It seems to have been blown out of proportion. But the one with the Tibetans has been wonderful. And that exchange has been with the monasteries and with the kingdoms. And as a natural extension, we now believe that it was always with the Chinese, which is actually true.
As a matter of fact, what you're saying is right. I am generally quite aware of what happened in Tibet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My father-in-law was the resident commissioner in Lhasa.
Yes,
when
sir.
the Chinese came in there.
Yes, sir.
And the government was fully aware of the coming in.
Yes, absolutely.
And we leave it at that. But over a period of time, you see, the basic problem which came into being, in my view, is there's no demarcation of the border or the line of actual control.
Right, sir.
Now, there's a difference in perception. Their perception and our perception as far as the line of actual control is concerned. So that is a point of friction which is going on since time immemorial. And since 2013, of course, before that, they've been claiming Arunachal.
Yes, absolutely. South Tibet.
But in 1950, Arunachal became a part of India. And there's no doubt it is very much a state of India. But they have been claiming, because they feel that Tawang was the taxpayer to Lhasa. But that's history. I mean, that has no meaning whatsoever. The Zongpin in 1950 had given in writing that the complete area south of McMahon, the line is Arunachal is part of India. So,
Yes.
so the border dispute is basically one of the basic problems between the Chinese. But since 2013, I feel they have been resorting to what we call salami slicing.
That's true, sir.
For
But
example,
sorry, go ahead.
they did it in Galwan in 2020. They tried in Doklam earlier. Actually called Doklam, but since I've been in that area, there's known as Dolam, but we'll call it Doklam.
Yes, sir.
Had we not stopped them at Doklam in the Chumbi Valley, and had they gone on to the Jamfari Ridge, our complete defensive plan would have gone for a six. So
Yeah.
it was a very good action by the formation commander there to stop these chaps from going into the Jamfari Ridge. Then they tried Yangtze in Tawang sector. But we got the information and we occupied the Yangtze Ridge. But had they taken on Yangtze Ridge, they would have had a very deep observation right up to the Sela.
Right. Right.
Then, of course, they came into Dapsang Plains.
Yes.
It's about 80 odd kilometers inside. And that threatened the DBO airfield. So over a period of time, especially since 2013, they have been trying all sorts of things. Taking a little pace here, a little bit there, but we have been on our guard and we are thwarting them.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. And in fact, this is not just a phenomena happening with India. Now, if you look at China and its neighborhood, I mean, I say this not very disrespectfully, but with some bit of skepticism. The only friends that the Chinese seem to have are the Pakistanis and North Korea. So outside of those two nations, they are at loggerheads with everyone in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So whether it's, of course, they think Taiwan is part of their own system. Then they have these head-on collisions with the Philippines quite often. With Indonesia, they're at loggerheads. South Korea, they have serious issues with.
Yeah.
You look at Japan, they're ready to attack Japan at any given point in time. So even in the neighborhood, their relationships across the relationships within South China Sea are pretty rough right now. And so it's not just about what's happening with India. In fact, the theory behind string of pearls, which has been going on now for about 20 years, is that you would probably have now naval presence, or you'll have, let's say, some sort of military presence across all of South China Sea. So about 15, 16 such islands have been converted into maritime.
Yeah, the seven dot line, yeah, what we call it, yes.
7 dash line, sir. Yes.
7 dash line.
And then this whole putting their stamp across regions. So like I said, South China Sea has definitely been, pretty much come under a lot of Chinese influence. And now the IOR.
Yeah.
Whether there was Hanbantota or Gwadar, the intent to start reaching out to the Indian Ocean region. So I think there's this coming back to the original where we started from, that this relationship, your friends and foe at the same time, you kind of...
I'll add one more thing. You see, that when the present dispensation in China came into being, they said we want Greater China. Greater China meant all those areas which they had lost earlier. They even started claiming certain portions of Kyrgyzstan.
That's correct.
So,
I'm not sure if viewers on this may be aware of this or not, but they've actually gone to war with Russia as well over Vladivostok. And so that port at Vladivostok is a potential conflict zone between the Russians and the Chinese.
Yeah, the Amur River Valley. Amur River, yeah.
Right, and so even that is a conflict area, which not too many people...
It's been resolved. They resolved the border issue with Russia. That Amur River, there's a couple of islands there which are being claimed by both. That has been resolved. I mean, because that was a very big industrial base for the Russians.
for the Russians.
That thing has been that's over, and now I think we have dwelt adequately historically. What about the economic factor?
You got to give it to them for having. It's called the miracle of the century. No one has done this in recorded history again. To pull up a nation from $1,500 per capita income to $13,000 per capita income in less than 40 years. There was a time when the Indian per capita income and the Chinese per capita income in 1980s were exactly the same. They were at $1,500 and they were at about 1,200. We were at about $1,000. We were exactly neck to neck. Today we've reached about $3,000 and China is at about $13,000.
Absolutely.
Just pulling out of poverty for an entire population has not happened ever in the history of mankind. So full credit where it's due. And like I said, it is nothing short of a miracle of what they've wanted done. And just one more statistic that even in India, there has been even in India, poverty alleviation has been a major attempt by the government of India, and there has been progress. But just to give you some numbers on this, the real poor people in China, like at poverty levels, which is, let's say, defined by the World Bank, by statistics, let's say poverty-driven people in China, that number will now be about 2 crore people.
Okay.
But in India, that number is still 20 crore, even after lifting people out of poverty.
Yeah.
So even on that metric, China has done some remarkable work. And I think one of the areas so we became the service provider to the world and they became the manufacturers to the world.
Absolutely.
That pretty much is how it was. But there were two reasons for it, sir. What had happened is that manufacturing shifted, let's say, to China. There were two very big reasons for it. One, at that point in time, let's say in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, labor was very cheap. And it's not cheap at all now. It's very expensive. Now it's very high-end labor, so it's become very expensive. But in those three decades, labor was cheap in China. And what was also happening is, in Germany, what was happening is that all of energy, the cost of energy was falling. And so cost of energy was falling, and they were able to, that's why they could outsource all of their production out to China.
Okay.
And so these two things happened simultaneously. So cost of energy was falling and cost of labor was low. And so the world could push out orders to China. All of that is reversed now. Labor prices have gone up very sharply and cost of energy is also rising because of whatever is happening in the world, whether it's conflict, etc. And because of the reversal, now you see that the Chinese have kind of settled down at a 2%, 3% on a very high GDP base, but they settled down at 3% growth, where they were galloping at 9 and 10 for, let's say, 25, 30 years. So after 3 decades and 4 decades of supernormal growth, they've now started to look at 3%. But 3%, like I said, on a very large number.
Very large, yes. No, actually, I feel that there has been a change in 1988 when we had this revised bilateral trade and cultural relationship. That's the time, the trade with China started building up. But the impetus to the trade was between 2008 and 2021. Now, if you see last year's trading thing, it's over $100 billion worth of trade has taken place between China and India. But to the advantage of China, we have exported only 16.45 billion worth of export to China. And we imported 17.41 billion worth from China to India. And what you said was absolutely correct. We as a nation have been providing services, IT field. Now, with the changing geopolitical scenario in the world, and we talk about Atmanirbharta, I think we need to now build up our own infrastructure for our own trade and increase our export potential. What do you feel of it?
No, absolutely right. And I just want to, uh, many things are happening on that front, and we'll definitely speak on it. But I just want to come back to one aspect of China's manufacturing. And so many nations became dumping grounds for Chinese goods. So whether it was, small Ganpatis during Diwali or just the kite, manja on the kite also used to, no, these are not things you would expect the Chinese to supply.
Yes.
But there was a period when we became dumping ground because at that point in time, focus on quality was also not there. And so anything cheap could be imported. And over time, we just gave away space for manufacturing anything. Even today, so we just, as Atmanirbharta is starting to come and become important in our lives and manufacturing is starting to revive, for the first time, toys are being manufactured in India, as simple as toys. Now,
Yes.
if you look around in your home, or if I look around in my home, furniture that is also being used by all of us also comes from outside of India many times, whether it's coming through Thailand or it's coming. So I'm saying we've given up so much space on some very basic items that it became like that deal was just not it is just not accretive for India. However, now that all of this is starting to shift, one area that is going to happen is we will not end up making the footballs and the garments, etc., because that leap again we will take. And this is where I do believe that just like we as a nation, we did not focus on laptops and we went straight to mobiles. That's exactly what is going to happen on manufacturing in India as well. We're not going to do what the Chinese did, which is go through all the steps of manufacturing. I think India will be focused on high-end manufacturing.
Okay. Okay.
Is where the focus is. And so now the government's program on semiconductors. So just to give an idea, today China imports semiconductors, and that bill is bigger than their oil bill. That's how large the semiconductor import bill is for China, because they're obviously using semiconductors for everything.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're very, very sophisticated semiconductors, so they get it from NVIDIA, etc., etc. But there is one part of semiconductors which are important, but not super sophisticated and not extremely tough to build. That is where India is focusing on the 28nm chips. And that's where the government is putting in a lot of money. And I think the reason why I share that with everyone is that if we start becoming self-sufficient in manufacturing of semiconductors,
Okay.
it would mean a whole lot of, let's say, support system to the auto industry, to the manufacturing industry, because 28nm chips are extremely sophisticated, but not like 3nm. 3nm is the most complex manufacturing process in the world, and that only two companies can do, NVIDIA and AMD. But if we get to 28nm, then our dependence starts to fall on Chinese imports. So a choke point, which was, let's say, they refused to give us chips during COVID. So we couldn't even make cars, because cars you use chips to, let's say, even if you want to press the window down to open, let's say to get the window down, you have to press a button and then the window goes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That uses chips. You want to use a toaster, that uses chips, etc. Now, the other area where India will start to focus much more is rare earth materials. So there are two choke points. One is chips and rare earth, and both of them are being opened up by the government. I think there'll be a whole lot of focus on semiconductors and rare earth.
Right. Now, you see, with what is happening in the world now, we had one dominant power, which is putting tariff on anything and everything, and on the whole, all over the world. But I think, in my opinion, where India and China come together are two organizations, BRICS and SCO.
Sorry,
Now,
so
if you
BRICS
see
and
BRICS and SCO.
SEO. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, as of now, there are 10 countries which are part of BRICS and 16 are members. That makes it a total of 26.
That's correct, sir.
And SCO has also got a very large membership.
Yes.
where our Prime Minister will be attending very soon.
Tomorrow.
Now, yeah. Now you see these two organizations where India and China are together constitute nearly half the population of the world.
That's correct.
And with the threat of tariffs and sanctions which is coming all over the world, if these two organizations join hands, it'll not be a unipolar world, it'll be a multipolar world. What do you feel of it?
I think so. What is happening is the pace at which geopolitical changes are taking place is unprecedented. Till about 3 months, exactly till about 3 months ago, the Americans were going to, help India become China +1. And 3 months later, we are talking about a situation where the Chinese, the Russians, and the Indians come together to form a union against the United States. So in three
Yeah.
months, things have changed. And so, are we headed into a multipolar world from a unipolar world? For sure. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And this is nothing to do with the Americans, the Russians, or the Chinese, or the Indians. The fact is, what is Trump saying to his electorate? What is Trump saying? That I will help make America great again. Three things. He won the election on three things. He said, I will make America great again. I will get jobs back in America, and I will stop illegal immigration. Those are the three things he said. And this is the United States at $50,000 per capita income, the richest nation in the world. And what does Prime Minister Modi say to his electorate when he comes to power in 2024? I will make in India, I will get jobs done, and I will stop illegal immigration. And we are at $3,000 per capita income, one of the poorest in the world. So the richest country in the world and the poorest country in the world, when the elections are being won on the same plank.
Same platform, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly the same platform. Trump didn't say anything that Modi didn't say, and vice versa. Which gets me to the point that obviously both the countries are facing the same problem. We face the same problem, whether it's illegal immigration, job losses, etc. Creation of jobs and make domestic items. In all of this, what is happening is that the Russians then are saying, we will do whatever it takes to protect our nation. Hence, we will attack Ukraine. And the Chinese are saying that it is our time under the sun. So by definition, we are already into a multipolar world.
It is, absolutely.
Because now everyone is staking a claim. So that I think the point I was trying to make is this is not about who we work with. It is about what our intentions are.
Intentions for the nation. But all the nation look for the goodness of the nation per se.
That I think, sir, is a very big change from what at least we've seen in, let's say, in the previous 2 decades.
Yes.
Where it was still, it had become a world which was, which became connected because of trade. Now you're saying we are going to deconnect, and all of trade will happen in my own borders. And hence, by definition, you will all the nations will become important in their own capacity.
Yes. No, why it's come to my mind is if these 26 countries of BRIC and the other members of SCO, they start trading within themselves.
Yeah.
US is in trouble.
So I think the point I was trying to make is, if you look at it from India's perspective, the whole concept, the big shift has been from the word non-alignment to strategic alignment. I think that's a huge shift. And I'll try and explain what I mean out here. What I'm trying to say is that look at the construct of foreign policy right now. We work with the Israelis, and we're also very close to the Iranians. We've been obviously very close to the Russians, until 3 months ago, extremely close to the Americans as well.
Yes.
And the Prime Minister of India has been getting all these prestigious civilian awards from almost all the Middle Eastern countries.
Correct.
And so the point again I was trying to make is that this whole concept of strategic alignment means we will go after everything that tick boxes our interests.
That's right. Absolutely.
And if that means that we need to be part of BRICS SCO or have an FTA with the UK or an FTA with Australia, so be it. I don't think this is about anti-US as much as it is being about pro-India.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the point I was trying to make.
Now you see, sometime back, the foreign minister of China, Wang Yi, had come over to India.
Yes, sir.
And that is a big change in the dynamics per se, in a sense that a lot of points which came into being during his visit, a lot of things are thrust out. In my opinion, what is important was that both the countries said that they're making an effort to address our problems or concerns which both the countries have. That's a very major statement. We have certain concerns with China. China has certain concerns. If they're prepared to talk on these, I think it's a very good thing. Then they had put in a freeze for certain trade. With Yang, during the foreign minister's time, they have opened up fertilizer, so rare earth minerals,
Yes.
and also the tunnel machines to make tunnels.
Yes, sir.
Then they wanted to have open the trade from the three areas: Shipkila, Lipu Lake, and Nathula. Nathula is an old trade route, but
And also, yes, sir.
but the Nepalese are saying sorry, not through Lipu Lake, because there is a contentious area. So I think if we start getting the rare earth minerals, our requirement of these magnets for our industry that we have, both civil and military, is about 80 to 85%.
That's correct.
There will be a very big change, very big change. And
That's correct. Uh, right and wrong. Actually, that's where the predicament of this relationship is: friends and foes simultaneously. Operation Sindoor was a classic case of where we didn't we didn't take on the Pakistanis. You would be the best judge of that. We took on the Turkish and we took on the Chinese and we took on the Pakistanis simultaneously. So, and this is the oddity of the relationship, that you just finished fighting a war literally against Chinese
technology, Chinese technology.
I would think all of China's equipment was available, whether it was satellite, space, cyber. In fact, even narrative war, something that you started, so for the army, or the information war. So I won't take this on its face value of what's going on. This also comes across as very transactional, at least for now, that just because there is the common enemy is now the US because of trade tariffs being put on us and the Chinese. It just seems very natural for the two to come together. But given what is happening in the world, to say that this is now going to be lasting peace and this is now going to be the start of a new bonhomie, I was very skeptical on that for now, at least.
I'll touch upon that a little later when you talk about the border issue. But certain things will come in, like, for example, agreement for the direct flights between China and India, opening out visas for the Chinese visitors out here.
That's true.
Two important things which came into being. One was two groups being made. One group to look into the delimitation of the border, and the second is for peace and tranquility of the border. There are two very major issues, because our contentious issues is the LAC.
Right, sir.
And in the end, as a second aspect of so the peace and tranquility, they said, and now it has to be addressed by generals in the eastern and the central sector.
So they've upped the game.
They have. So there have been very major changes which have come into being. We were very concerned about this dam which is coming along Songpo. And they've agreed to give us the information or the hydrological information during the emergency. Again, we were very concerned about it, that if you make a dam, it's going to affect the lower riparian states.
Yeah.
So some very good points have come into being.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. But sir, I mean, of course, there are flights, etc. But we are the only country in the world which is still banned TikTok. Whether it goes away, etc., I don't know. But then even the US could not do that. I guess the point I'm trying to just highlight out here is that in a very, very fast-moving, fast-paced, racy geopolitical world, India has taken a position of doing whatever it thinks is right for its people. If that means having a relationship with the Chinese on any front, then so be it. But there is something I must speak about, sir. And I very specifically spoke about this, that what happened in the last 3 months, that this relationship has nosedived so seriously between the Americans and the Indians. It could not be the oil. It cannot be the fact that we are importing oil. That just seems extremely lame, and to anyone that would sound as if it's an excuse. And I'm just going to put forward my theory on that, and I think you would be the best person to answer that.
It is an ego which has been hurt.
No, I don't know about ego. So I think there has something happened in Operation Sindhur, where assets would certainly have got damaged. Now, whether they were personnel also involved or not, I'm not sure. But I would hazard a guess that even personnel may have been involved, apart from American interests and assets. Because the way this relationship has turned on its head, you can literally time it to post-op Sindhur, not pre-op Sindhur. And I do think that the fact that Akash systems, I was on a call the other day with the creator of the Akash missile system. He's a Padam Shri award winner, and he was explaining what that missile system has done, or for that matter, what BrahMos has done, and that along with what S-400 has done. So if you look at Akash, S-400 and BrahMos, if you look at the
Absolutely.
And then if you look at the devastation that it's wreaked on Pakistan, I do believe, and ideally, sir, I'd like to stay away from conspiracy theories, but I do think American interests have been damaged. And probably that's the reason for this whole relationship kind of curving down.
Yes, I think you're right. We'll leave it at that, because that we have discussed in the past on the phone. But
yeah, sure.
yes, I also feel what you're saying. I also feel the same way. But we'll leave it at this point. Now, coming on to sorry,
just to complete, so the reason why I brought it up is that would not mean that suddenly we become the closest friends with the Chinese. I think those are baby steps. It's just going to be baby steps, because even they have seen the response of what has happened during Op Sindhur. So yes. The point I was trying to make is, I think there is a new respect for India and its defense equipment, and probably that realization that we probably have it in us to stand up to the big boys is something that's going to hold us in good stead.
We have to be very careful. We can't let our guard down.
Not at all.
You see, along the LAC is around 3,488 kilometers long.
Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, there's a difference in perception of the LAC. We say the LAC runs around this way because I've been on ground, so I'm telling you on it. There's a difference in perception. And secondly, there is a trust deficit between the troops which are deployed and the PLA deployed in so-called Tibet and our own troops. There's definitely a
trust
deficit in these two. Now, you see, we have got this patrolling boundary which is coming to being, this buffer zone. I don't know for what reason. There must be some very good reasons. The buffer zone is from 3 kilometers deep to 10 kilometers deep. And this buffer zone is towards our side of the LAC. We are now taking up a case for permitting patrolling north of Pangong Tso
Mhm.
and Kailash Range. You see, Kailash Range is important because Kailash Range, if you go to Kailash Range, you are looking at the Moldo, which is their headquarters, and also denying the Spangur Gap. So, we have to be very, very careful on the LAC aspect. But with these two groups which have come into being, one for the delimitation and second for the peace and tranquility along the LAC, let's see how they come.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to take some time. It is not going to be that simple. And that I will discuss with you separately.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, coming down to our concerns, what do you feel is our concerns with China? What are our concerns with China?
Just a couple of things where we'll give the audience an idea of let's say what our concerns are. Like they've not allowed designated terrorists to be called so in the United Nations. Now, when you don't even allow Masood Azhar to be a designated terrorist and you use your United Nations veto power to disallow it, and not just once, multiple times,
Yeah.
then it just shows that you not only are you protecting terrorists, perhaps you're also breeding them. I think that's the number one concern, because I do study a lot of costs of terrorism on India, and
Yeah.
I think that I think, to my mind, as at least as a someone who studies this, I think that just shows your intent of being a supporter of terrorism rather than someone who opposes terrorism. And all of this is documented proof. There's nothing I'm speaking which is not available for the public to see. I think it starts from that in terms of concerns. Even during Pahalgam, sir, the equipment that has been used, now they've figured out that Huawei satellite phones were used, etc., etc. And there's a long history. You've been part of that.
Yeah.
You would, you're so much better informed than I am. But insurgency, Northeast, etc. So all of those concerns don't vanish. In fact, they stay. But the best one can do is to hope for a more stable relationship given the circumstances. None of this is going to go away, that's for sure. And the point you were making is absolutely valid. India has to be so much more careful on both its front and half a front within the nation.
Yeah. I'll qualify my statement for that. You see, there's a very heavy deployment along the LAC and especially in Ladakh sector. From them, the PLA as well as our own troops. Yes, certain brigades of PLA have moved back about 100, 150 kilometers into Tibet.
Peacetime barracks.
Yeah, peacetime. But the infrastructure is so good.
They could, yes.
They could come in 3 to 4 hours.
Right.
There's a differential, deployment differential. So it goes to prove that we have to build up our own resource, infrastructure to match up with them.
Yeah.
That is one. And secondly, what I feel is the tango of China and Pakistan. We are claiming Azad Kashmir. We call it POK, Pakistan-occupied Gilgit and Baltistan area. But they've already constructed the CPEC through this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a very major concern, in the sense that we have been claiming that area, but they are already there.
Yeah, that's true. That is part of the study that I've done in terms of, so the start and end of CPEC is both disputed. It starts at Gwadar, which is Balochistan, and
Correct.
ends at Gilgit-Baltistan, which is in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And the Home Minister in Parliament has said that India will take back Pakistan POK. Now, when that happens, etc., that's
the $1 million question.
That is not part of this conversation. But I think as the Home Minister, he's made an official statement that we will take back Gilgit-Baltistan.
It's a political statement. Political statement.
Yes. To be saying that also, which it would mean for the Chinese that their infrastructure investment goes for a toss. And also, sir, they also continue to have access. I mean, they own Shaksgam Valley, the Karakorum, etc., because that was given over by the Pakistanis to China in '63. So my own theory, sir, is that the Galwan, that night at Galwan was not for land, it was for water. Because it's the access to water that the Chinese want. And the theory behind that is that you need fresh sources of water, and you need large amounts of desert land if you're to become a superpower in terms of manufacturing semiconductors.
Correct.
So that's Xinjiang area, and then all of Galwan has the river tributaries, and that is what they're after. And because India is busy building infrastructure against it, that's what led to the conflict.
Yeah. And one more concern, which I also feel very strongly, is about the Chinese so-called string of pearls.
Yes. Yes.
You see, we call ourselves so-called regional power.
Right, sir.
Now, the Chinese, if you see, they have got the bases in Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. The string of pearls they are very active in the Indian Ocean.
In Djibouti now they have a naval base.
Yes, Maldives also. Now, second aspect of concern is I feel that besides Pakistan, who's supposed to be the strategic brother, Bangladesh is also coming into play now. We have to be careful of these. We always consider Nepal as a buffer state. But the Chinese are going in for infrastructure development in Nepal. So these are the concerns which will come into my mind. Any other point you have on this?
Sir, I want to just address to a lot of this. So, for example, it seems always as if the neighborhood seems to be flaring up against India. That happens quite often. But let's say the flare-up happens, but then after 6 to 8 months, things tend to go back to normal. And I'll give you 2 examples of that. As the Americans were leaving Afghanistan, it was very clear that Taliban will come. Obviously, Taliban came over, and then the whole view was that this will be a very anti-India government.
Yeah.
The Taliban. But that's not what is happening in reality. The same thing happened with President Mizyou when he came into power in Maldives. His T-shirt said "India out." Today is the same president who's, his ties with India and Prime Minister Modi are coming back, and Nepal's 9 prime ministers, 9 years. So they've also had a very tough history in the last 10 years. So they've had these cartography wars with us, changing the map, etc. But even that is starting. Hanbantota port. Suddenly the Sri Lankans, the biggest aid to the Sri Lankans are coming from India. I think the point I was trying to make is back in the subcontinent, things tend to look very difficult, but they tend to come back to normalcy, barring Pakistan. As far as string of pearls is concerned, you're absolutely right. I mean, officially, I think the term string of pearls was never acknowledged by the Chinese. I think it's a Western term.
Usually they have in Coco Island.
Yes.
Coco Island is electronic paste.
Yes, that's correct. But sir, on that, what is also happening, because this I think is a change I have noticed from 2014 onwards, from the present government, and I think it's credit due to the government that they've noticed all of this and they've taken active action. For example, against the string of pearls, now the India doctrine is necklace of diamonds. So we've been busy signing agreements with all of these nations, whether it is Mauritius, with Maldives as well, with Mongolia, with Indonesia. So it's a reverse to the string of pearls. And so there is another way to counter all of the influence. And now we've kind of started to put our own maritime resources through necklace of diamonds.
Yes. Karan, I think we have covered a lot of ground.
Yes, sir.
And all I can say to sum up is that There's a good start with the foreign minister of China having come. A lot of things have been trashed out, but we have to be very careful, as what you very correctly said. These alliances, or the problems which come up between the nations, they're short-lived. It depends on the interest of the nation at that point in time.
At that point in time.
Yes. So I think we should maintain an even keel
Yes, sir.
rather than jump into one aspect and the other. Hey, maintain an even keel, what we are doing right now. And I think we have to be careful. But it's a good start with
Yes.
China.
Yes.
And hopefully it should improve in times to come.
That's
And
right, sir. Same points. I mean, I would agree with that. And the good news in all of this is look at how we are now getting hyphenated in the world. It all through 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, India, Pakistan. The hyphenation was always India, Pakistan. Today, the hyphenation is India is taking on the US, India, China, India, US, India, China. I think personally, I'm very happy with the hyphenation now.
Yeah.
And this conversation that we are also having is with China, and definitely not a word we spoke about Pakistan. So that's the good news. We are, even though we are $3,000 per capita, yet we are trying to compete with the big boys. For me, that's the biggest takeaway.
That's right. That's right. And Karan, thank you very much indeed for making us find so much of time to spend with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
I've learned a lot. I've gained a lot with your views. Thank you very much indeed. Very kind of you, and keep in touch.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.